Hey guys, just wanted to do a little update on some of the things I've been working on lately. I picked up this Marantz 2015 from a guy last weekend on Facebook Marketplace. He had it on there pretty cheap. Said the tuner didn't work, and I thought it would be a good project to repair the tuner since I'm still learning about aligning tuners and repairing tuners. I get there and start talking to the guy and find out he's a engineer that works in RF, and he had already went through and recapped the whole unit, and I was a little bit worried there that I wouldn't be able to figure out what was wrong with it, since he probably knew more than I do. But I got lucky, I guess. I went through, troubleshooted it. I found out that when he was replacing the capacitors, he lifted a pad and broke a connection to part of the circuit that feeds the tuner power. So I repaired that and got the tuner repaired. Ran into some issues aligning it. The trimmer capacitor here for the high end of the FM dial was completely bad. It was just a short. There was no capacitance in it at all on the LCR meter. Unfortunately, they're not very easy to find replacements for these days. I had a bunch of these piston style trimmer capacitors. JFD, it's like 0.5 to 8 picofarads, I think. And I kind of rigged one of those up in there. You can't see it too well, but it works. The thing aligned perfectly. Seems to meet and actually beat the factory specs on distortion and a couple other things with the FM tuner. Not the prettiest solution though, and it's not easy to adjust because you have to use a small Allen wrench, which is conductive and throws it off when you touch it. I took a look at DigiKey and Mauser and didn't really find much as far as replacements. It's a 2 to 10 picofarad is what it calls for, but they pretty much only make surface mount ones now. A couple of through-hole models weren't very high quality, so I may end up having to leave that in there, which is fine. Just hopefully years down the road when someone else goes to align this thing, it doesn't throw them off too bad. Put some new vellum paper in there, new incandescent bulbs. I used a red LED for the tuner dial. I didn't really like the warm white, which kind of turns it yellow. So now this thing is just red and teal blue. Same guy had this Sony TA3120, I guess it's the A model, 2-channel Sony power amp from the 60s. He went through and recapped this, did a really nice job. I didn't really want it, but it kind of came with a lot, so I'll probably end up putting this on eBay. But it's 60 watts a channel. Apparently it was part of like a 3-way system. Has the original manual with it. It's printed on really nice paper. Sony always made some pretty high quality stuff. There's a diagram of how that was meant to be hooked up. Got the shop dog hanging out down here tonight. And over here, the same guy I got the Marantz tuner from, or the Marantz receiver and the Sony there. He's like, oh, by the way, I've got a Sound Technology 1000A. I'll sell you. I got that for a pretty good price. It's really clean, comes with all the books. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the matching transformer. I don't need this for myself since I have 2 other alignment setups with HP and the Roden Short stuff, but I got a couple friends that are interested in this, so I figured I'd pick it up for them, because they're actually kind of hard to get on eBay and stuff these days. Everyone seems to be looking for them, even though, in my opinion, there's better options out there for less money. I also got this HP 651 oscillator. I believe it's 10 hertz to 1 megahertz. I don't actually need it. It's broken, but it had a really nice case on it. And I bought it for another project, but unfortunately it's not going to work. So I will probably try to fix it. I might learn something. And the reason I bought that was for this. This is a HP Barney Oliver amplifier. Probably haven't heard of that before. It was a project HP did in around 1972. The director of HP Labs, Barney Oliver, designed an amplifier, and I guess some people heard it and they said, man, these are really nice, why don't we make a run of them? So they made a couple hundred of them. I've heard anywhere from 200 to 500. I don't know for sure. Mine's serial number 183 and a friend of mine's is 450 something. So this thing's really nice. I was hoping to find one that was in kind of you know, original condition, not electrically restored, but you know, this one had been restored by the previous owner. It was strictly electrical restoration. This thing looks brand new cosmetically. It's pretty cool. It's got a stepped attenuator for volume control. I'll post a picture here so you can take a look inside. You can see on the back there, uses Jones connectors for the speakers. You know, totally overkill, but really cool. Got a bunch of random stuff on the shelf over here. And this one's pretty neat. It's a Bose 551 spatial control receiver. I'll post a picture in the video, a better view of that. And I bought some Bose 901s. I've never heard them before, so these are the Series 4, which have a, you can barely see it there, but there's a third terminal in the middle. And I guess what this lets you do is basically set the width of the soundstage, because the Bose 901s have 8 drivers on the back, and with the 3-wire connection, that's actually a 4-channel amp. It'll pan the sound left to right to kind of widen or narrow your soundstage. Here's a better look at the front of the Bose 551. It's a bit of a basket case. So the way this works is there's a main power switch on the back, and the thing basically stays in standby. So when you want to turn it on, you just tap the Bose logo, and when you touch any 2 of the letters together, it's supposed to turn on. I can't get it to stay on. I've got to do some more troubleshooting, but unfortunately this thing has a lot of leaky caps in it, and it looks like they've damaged some of the circuit boards. I see some of the solder mask bubbling up and things like that, so it's going to take a bit of work to clean it up and get it going. Probably a winter project, but it's worth it. There's not many of these out there from what I understand, and it's a pretty cool amp. It's got the EQ for the 901s built right into it, along with that other feature I mentioned. I've also got this Sorensen 1000 VA AC voltage regulator. A couple weeks ago I was testing an amplifier. It was a Carver TFM15, and I was having trouble getting it to meet its rated power spec, and what I actually found was that the AC line was dropping voltage. I'm not sure why. I know a lot of people are running their air conditioners and things like that. I also ran another dedicated circuit to the bench, seems to help a bit, but this basically gives me a stable 120 volts all the time if I need it. This was something that I found at a local scrapper again, otherwise it wouldn't have been worth paying the shipping cost. The thing weighs a ton, but pretty cool device. Got a few new books too. A friend of mine suggested this Troubleshooting Analog Circuits book by Bob Pease. Haven't really read too much of it yet, but what I have read I'm liking quite a bit. I think that'll come in handy. Also got Bob Cordell's Designing Audio Power Amplifiers book. I like this. Haven't really read too much out of it yet, but it seems to be a bit more accessible to someone that's new to this than the Douglas Self book, where he really goes deep into the weeds on a lot of things that you probably aren't that interested in if you're new to working on these things. And another cool book, as a member of the Antique Wireless Association, they send me an annual review. This is actually my first year as a member, so my first year receiving this book. It's a 250-page book. Got a bunch of articles in there written by members, I guess. I like the first one. If you notice the cover here, it's the company CRL, or Central Lab, and it goes into the history of the company. I've seen the name CRL on a lot of components and things like that over the years, potentiometers in particular, but they really go into detail here, talk about their product lineups and all that, history of the company. It's really cool. So if you're not a member, you might want to check that out. They also send you, I think, quarterly smaller little magazines. Good stuff. Alright, back on the main bench, I've got this, sorry for the lighting, it's a Pioneer SX9000, and it came with this beautiful wood case. It's in pretty good shape. Channels, one of the channels was blowing on it when I got it. The other one wasn't working correctly. I found out that the trimmers for the bias and the center voltage on the output board were completely open, all 4 of them actually. I'm not sure if all 4 were bad originally or they went bad as soon as I touched them, but they were all 4 were open. So this amp's a good example of why you should get these old things restored. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, just leave them alone. But when those trimmers go, they can take out the outputs with them, and you're in for a much more expensive repair. So it's not just capacitors you really got to worry about. So I've been slowly going through that. I made these cool 3D printed adapters to fit the smaller capacitors in the original locations. I'm not a big fan of hacking them in there. Some people tape them in or use silicone. I actually wrote that as code in the OpenSCAD program, so you can basically just punch in the dimensions, you know, outside diameter, inside diameter, which would be the old cap's outside diameter, and the height of the adapter, and generate them on demand. I left a little, you can't really see it here too well, but there's a little slot in there, because what I find is the capacitors vary a little bit in dimensions over what they specified, so that just allows you to compensate for that. So it looks really nice. Other than that, picked up a few new pieces of test equipment. Got a HP 3561A dynamic signal analyzer. Works well. I found a local recycler that was selling it, so I didn't have to pay shipping on it, and they took my best offer. Even came with the front cover. Pretty cool. And since my last video of the lab tour, I picked up an HP 3325B function generator, and the reason I wanted that was for doing sweeps of the IF stages on amplifiers. It works really nice, and a 5335A counter. But yeah, that's about it. So eventually I'll try to make some restoration videos, but for now, have a good night.